I? I wondered, trapped in a pitch-black void with zero visibility. Faint whispers drifted in. Noble ladies were gossiping about the king's chilling behavior. ... in the terrifying way he looked at the prince. One claimed it was spine-chilling. She insisted it was just tough love for the empire's future ruler. Love? Really? I wondered if I heard right because they mentioned book names. Another lady added that the prince had grown impressively since they last met. He was already tall as a man. She sighed, wishing Queen Alice was here. Hearing that name sparked a memory. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. It hit me. I was inside the world of a book I'd read. I died saving a cat from a truck. That truck sent me here. Goodbye, pathetic old life. Maybe that lucky cat I saved gave me this. With plot knowledge, success was guaranteed. Now, whose body was I in? It didn't matter who I was. Victory was mine, but wait ... Who am I? A chic villainess or a royal daughter? Being born rich would be perfect. Even a simple life beats my past struggles. This time, I'm living large. While I was daydreaming about luxury, a boy suddenly stepped from the bush. He reached out and snatched me. Panic flared as I was lifted high. I tried to scream, but only a tiny, pathetic meow escaped my lips. Horrified, I faced the truth. I wasn't the heroine or even a villainess. I would have taken an extra role, but fate was much more cruel. I wasn't even human. I was a tiny kitten, smaller than a palm. My hands were now fuzzy white paws. Back home, cats were adored. ... But in this tragic world, things were very, very different for felines. I was in Souls Devoured by Darkness, a story filled with obsessive psychosis. The female lead's madness was chilling, yet I'd still rooted for them. I remembered the lore. Huppard was the greatest empire on the continent. This was where the future hero, Sillian Reinhardt, would rule supreme. But an ancient prophecy claimed cursed cats would bring the empire's ruin. Citizens hunted every cat to extinction, searching every corner of the land. Centuries later, not a single whisker remained. The prophecy was finally fulfilled. The empire thrived in peace because every cat had been completely wiped out. So of course, I had to be reborn as a cursed cat. Children were taught to kill cats on sight. Now, I was doomed. Just as I accepted my fate, soldiers rushed toward His Majesty. He calmly dismissed them, canceling the hunt because he felt unwell. They left, but I was still terrified. One look confirmed my fears. Only royals have crimson eyes, and only one had that ebony hair. The stunningly handsome man holding me was the crown prince himself. This was Sillian Reinhardt, the world's most bloodthirsty future tyrant. Once he realizes I'm a cat, it's game over. He'll kill me. It's so unfair, I'm not a curse. I'm just a poor human. I tried to tell him that a human soul was inside me, ... But meowing isn't a great way to communicate. The prince just stared. Hearing my cries, he wondered what this tiny creature was trying to say. Then he thoughtfully pointed out the obvious. It's a cat. I froze. The tiny furball realized the prince had likely never seen a real cat, only illustrations. Since cats were extinct in the empire, he only knew drawings. She tried warning him of the future, but her warnings were just frantic meows. The prince stared at her with a chilling, dark gaze. Suddenly, she landed on something plush. She was tucked right inside the prince's pocket. What on earth was he planning? Footsteps echoed as they entered the grand palace. Her heart raced. Was he taking her to a garden or a secret execution chamber? A hand grabbed her, placing her on a table. He sat across from her like an interrogator. Terrified her end was near, she heard him mutter how different she looked from the legends. No protruding fangs, no deadly claws. He seemed genuinely confused by her lack of menace. Was it just because she was a kitten? Seriously, what monsters did this world think cats were? As he poked her, the prince admitted the books got one detail perfectly right. This creature used deadly cuteness to mask its evil nature. He watched her tremble like a leaf. He finally admitted she was adorable, leaving our reincarnated heroine completely floored. Sillian stared intensely at the tiny fluff, then reached out his hand with a strange request. "Give me your paw. Now roll over and high five." Was he training a beast or a dog? Finally, he ordered her to bite his finger. She recoiled. Was this a trap to execute her? Hesitating, she leaned in and gave him a gentle nibble more like a sweet kiss than a bite. Sillian fell silent, staring at his finger. He whispered that it felt incredibly strange. It was as if she understood him perfectly, making her the only one who truly did. Dinner arrived, and the prince wondered what sort of feast a thing like her would eat. A thing? She fumed. Did he think she was some random inanimate object? The nerve! At least she was off the execution block for now, since food was finally on the menu. He poured milk, and she sighed. For a cat prophesied to destroy the empire, she felt small. According to that scary prophecy, she was incredibly lucky to still have her 9 lives. Sillian was only 18 or 19 here, long before his coronation and the novel's official start. It seemed she had been transmigrated into a prequel timeline before all the tragedy began. He set the dish down. Her stomach growled, but she worried if kittens were lactose intolerant. Whatever, she took a sip, and it was divine. Human dignity? That's for people, not cats! She gulped it down like there was no tomorrow. The prince watched her, grabbing a napkin. Books called cats cruel geniuses, but he saw only a pathetic, milk-covered little mess. Wiping her face, he noted she was so fragile he could break her by mistake. Was that a threat or an insult? Before she could decide, Sillian leaned in closer. He couldn't fathom how such a tiny ball of fluff could ever kill anyone. She nearly cried. That is exactly what I've been saying. Suddenly, a knock echoed at the door. The prince hesitated as the door swung open. Without a word, he moved with lightning speed. He snatched the kitten and stuffed her back into his coat pocket. Talk about a tight fit. She understood the secrecy, but did he have to be so rough? Ooh, what a jerk, Prince. A young lady's voice drifted in, asking if she had interrupted his meal. She sounded suspiciously sweet. She claimed she came to thank him for enjoying the dish she prepared yesterday. How noble. With a jawline sharper than a triangle, she fretted over his lack of appetite. Hiding in the pocket, our heroine realized this cooking lady felt like a classic villainous trope. The lady urged the prince to eat today's meal, boasting about how much effort she spent. Hearing that sickeningly sweet voice, a name flashed through the kitten's mind. Only one person in the novel used food to manipulate Sillian. A woman hungry for power. The villainous Countess Catherine Harmon Gisela, the same woman who seduced Cillian's father. She snatched the crown and throne, teasingly asking the prince if he'd lost his appetite. This same 20-year-old lady was gifted an entire estate by the emperor himself. Our lead recalled how her smarts and influence made her a total nightmare to handle. While the kitty daydreamed, Catherine bragged about the salt and pepper seasoned lamb. Drenched in fancy wine sauce, it was just the start of her grand scheme. Gisela was spiking meals with dark magic. She nagged Sillian to eat before it cooled. It'll turn rubbery. Take a bite since I worked so hard on this for you. She was slowly poisoning the prince's food, planning to turn Sillian into her personal puppet. She'd rule the future emperor. I'll wait right here until you finish your dinner, dear. Annoyed, Sillian snapped. If I eat this junk, will you finally get lost? Catherine stammered that His Majesty had personally ordered her to do this. She was just following orders. Realizing she was right, he gave a heavy, defeated sigh. Inside his pocket, the cat girl panicked. Is he actually picking up the spoon? No way he's eating that poison. Time to unleash the secret fluffball weapon. She scratched wildly inside his coat, making the prince jump in total surprise. Something wrong? The Countess asked. He reached in and snatched the tiny kitten out. She kept scratching to warn him. Don't you dare touch that suspicious food, mister. She imagined his brain melting. but all that came out was a pathetic meow. Just a tiny squeak. When he pulled his hand out, it had a massive scratch. Enough of this, the prince barked, noting his father never cared about his meals. Plus, he wasn't hungry. Catherine faked concern, suggesting he go rest his head. Once the door clicked shut, Sillian glared straight down at his heavy pocket. He searched for the kitten with a stern face. She sat on the table, pouting. "Care to explain these scratches?" he asked. The protagonist was totally sweating buckets. Being a cat is hard, but assaulting a prince at dinner? I'm definitely doomed. She meowed in desperation, trying to explain her kitty logic to the grumpy royal. Too bad he doesn't speak cat. The silence was so awkward it hurt. The kitten shook in fear, nearly crying. "Welp, I'm officially dead meat this time." She froze under his icy gaze. Asterisk, maybe I should have just let him eat the poison. She shook her head. No, her conscience wouldn't let her be that cold-hearted. Letting him get hooked on that cursed drug? Not on my watch. No more Gisela snacks for him. Suddenly, the prince gave her a soft head pat. "Scared in my pocket?" he asked. "If you stay out, stop using me as target practice." Relief hit her despite his scary face surviving his royal yellow card. He was letting her off. But then, he reached for that cursed fork again. Sillian went back to his meal. Kitty panic mode, level 9000. She started shredding the tablecloth. The prince just looked at her like she was crazy. Well, that just made things weirder. Now she had to try a different tactic. Time for the ultimate animal skill. High-stakes kitty charades and frantic body language. She mimed frantically. "You eat this food, and you go straight to the grave. Are you ... stopping me from eating?" he asked. She meowed aloud. "Proud, yes." "Am I really arguing with a cat?" Sillian sighed. "Why shouldn't I eat this?" More frantic meows followed. He figured the fluff ball had actually sensed a trap. "If I eat, I pass out?" he mused. "That sounds a lot like poison." The prince sighed. "This situation makes absolutely zero sense." Seriously? How would a mere furball know that? I wonder. Perks of being a reincarnated soul. What if I were just a basic kitty? Without my past life's memories, surviving this world would be a total catastrophe. But hey, glass half full. I'm basically the crown prince's favorite fluffy companion. Execution avoided. I could definitely get used to this royal sidekick lifestyle. While seeking a cure for my humanity, I'll just exploit my terminal cuteness. Sillian actually smirked. "Amusing," he whispered, leaving this tiny kitten absolutely starstruck. His rare smile vanished as a knock echoed. An imperial summons? Talk about timing. The emperor wants him at the library? Sillian's aura turned ice cold in a heartbeat. His warmth evaporated into shadows. Left alone, I curled up on his massive bed. This room is so sterile. Does this guy have zero taste in decor? He's basically a dorm student at the academy, so his lifeless vibe makes sense. He's a palace ghost. "Stay put," he warned before disappearing into the night. He said to keep myself busy with whatever. Great, a room full of nothing. Left behind again. Why did he have to rush off to that grumpy emperor? Sillian finally returned, shedding his coat to reveal a map of tragic, jagged scars. With hollow eyes, he washed away fresh blood and bruises. It was heartbreakingly silent. Tussling his damp hair, he looked over. "Surprise, your favorite kitten is still here." "Good girl for waiting," he murmured, petting me softly before drifting into sleep. "Don't tumble off the bed," he warned. But then, a metallic scent hit me. Blood. The emperor's discipline must be as brutal as the rumors say. Poor guy! So that was the library meeting. Seriously, why are all webtoon male leads so tragic? I thought his brooding was just for cool points. A total tragic hero cliche, right? Seeing his pain up close, it's not just plot anymore. It's devastatingly real. The copper tang of blood in his shivering form. This isn't just some story. I patted toward his hand. If only a tiny cat could heal those wounds. Sillian bolted upright from a nightmare, but found something far more shocking than a dream. No kitten. Instead, a stunning silver-haired goddess was sprawled across his royal sheets. Totally naked. Sillian recoiled, searching for his cat while his heart nearly stopped. Furball gone, gorgeous woman present. Talk about a confusing midnight plot twist. He was convinced his precious kitten had simply vanished into thin air. She was his first real encounter with a feline, not just some dusty book drawing. He'd almost drawn his sword back then, yet he couldn't bring himself to strike. How could an extinct creature even exist? And why in my garden of all places? Finding a legendary cat in the royal palace garden? It made zero sense. Plus, this wasn't just an animal. She understood every word I said. Fragile as she was, she'd literally risked her life to stop me from eating poison. She waited faithfully in the dark, offering me a warmth I'd never known. Dangerous or not, Sillian knew one thing for certain. That cat belonged to him. He glared at the intruder. If she'd harmed his cat, she'd pay in blood. "Wake up!" he roared, his patience snapping. But she remained blissfully unconscious. Livid, the prince grabbed her. "Open your eyes this instant." "That's a royal command." She blinked, dazed. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupted between them. Poof. The lady was gone, replaced by a tiny kitten meowing for attention. Frozen in shock, he watched me yawn. "Hey, why do you wake me up, handsome?" Stuck as a midnight feline, she saw his face and realized the prince was livid. Did she kick him in her sleep or smack a healing wound? He froze, demanding her true identity. She just blinked back innocently. "Buddy, I'm a kitten. All you're getting is a meow." No words, just whiskers. He sputtered, unable to form a coherent sentence. His royal brain was officially short-circuiting from the sheer absurdity. Pure confusion? Then Sillian leaned in close, questioning her feline authenticity. Seriously, major trust issues. "Sir, have you never seen a cat before?" Poor guy. Is that black magic potion finally rotting his royal brain? Was it the toxin buildup or just a stress-induced fever dream? Then it clicked the secret antidote from the original novel. Only Countess Gisela knew the recipe, and she's already dead. Mission impossible. Yet Sillian offered mercy if she would just reveal herself. Time for Plan B, full feline mode. Scratching and grooming engaged. Surely this innocent grooming act would trigger his cute sensors. Nope. Sillian just stared deadpan, wondering what the heck she was doing. Dignity gone, results? Zero. Her cold reality was a total feline fail. If cuteness fails, maybe the potion really has poisoned his heart. She hopped into his palm, hoping a kitten lick could purify magic. Sillian hesitated, sighed in defeat, and collapsed back onto the mattress. Interrogating a cat was officially a dead end. No answers tonight? Since he quit, she plopped down too. Time for cat naps. The prince tucked her in with gentle pats. She wondered why he was wrapping her up like a human burrito. But she just shrugged it off and drifted away. Seconds later, that mysterious flash of light struck again. Sillian froze in pure shock. What on earth was happening right before his eyes? The kitten was a woman once more. Sillian remembered the omen that cats would destroy the Huppard Empire. Because of that myth, the Empire had spent endless resources to wipe every cat from existence. That was his lifelong lesson, but this scene was far more beautiful than any scary story. This dangerous cat was actually a stunning woman, and his heart was totally conflicted. Since a cat still lived and the Empire stood, everything he knew was a total lie. To make it weirder, there was zero mention of cats turning into gorgeous girls in any records. Something was fishy about this ancient prophecy, and it had fooled the entire world. One thing was certain. Sillian would rule this empire no matter what happened. He would solve every mystery in Huppard while gently running his fingers through her silky hair. Until the empire was truly his, He would keep the secret kitten all to himself. He wouldn't let her go, but more importantly, she desperately needed to put some clothes on. The next morning, as sunlight filled the room, the little kitten finally blinked her eyes open. Cat life required way more naps. But where did her handsome prince disappear to? Suddenly, she noticed her leg was tied down. She was literally stuck in place. As she panicked, Sillian arrived with a plate, claiming he couldn't let his pet wander off. He smiled charmingly while setting down a dish of milk. Talk about a handsome captor. Sillian told her to drink up while it was warm and forget about escaping. She sighed, wondering how someone could be so cheerful and so controlling at the same time. But the prince still smelled like blood. Worried, the tiny kitten padded over to check on him. Toying with his shirt strings, she gave a cheeky bite and yanked instantly. His outfit staged a dramatic exit. "What are you doing?" Sillian asked softly, catching her after she spotted his hidden, tragic scars. She was horrified. The prince was the Empire's peerless swordmaster, yet his body was badly mangled. Staring at those injuries, she wondered why he never retaliated against the Emperor's cruel, violent abuse. In the original story, the Emperor was a hero, but here he was a monster tormenting young Sillian. Sillian might be the tragic lead, but no one deserves such a heart-wrenching and hostile life. She meowed loudly and pounced on him with her paws raised. The prince looked at her, amused. "What's this?" he asked. "Are you upset because I'm hurt? Is that your way of worrying about me?" Sillian smiled warmly. He found it hilarious that she acted human while still being convinced she was a cat. He stroked her fur as she sat in his lap, secretly wondering if she was playing a trick. Or did she really not know her nature? "We're heading out," he said. "We must buy something." The kitten was left clueless. Soon, inside the carriage, she stared out the window, feeling alive and free. Beyond the prince's room, she saw vibrant streets and people in vintage outfits. This truly was the novel's world. This truly was the novel's world. Suddenly, the prince pulled her back, scolding her for being reckless. She meowed in agreement. The carriage stopped as the coachman announced they had reached their destination. Two people greeted them, bowing low and saying it was a supreme honor to receive the royal prince. They proudly mentioned that this was the most prestigious clothing shop in all of Quad City. Tucked in his pocket, the kitten wondered why he'd bring a cat to a luxury clothing shop. Did he need her for something? As they entered, Sillian noticed some beautiful, ornate masks on the counter. "For the palace masquerade," a woman explained. Their accessories not yet ready for the window display. They were still being crafted, which is why they weren't showcased to the public just yet. The girl figured the prince was preparing for the ball. Maybe he wanted her feminine opinion? Sillian dismissed the staff to browse alone. Once they left, he told her she could come out. The attendant stepped away, and the prince let her out. She jumped onto the table immediately. She was startled by the elegant clothes. Then the prince told her to pick whatever she liked. She was totally baffled. Then the prince admitted he didn't really know what women's tastes were like. The kitten started panicking. They were in the pajama section. Why would he buy a woman nightwear? Sillian said it was a gift, leaving her mind spiraling. Which woman captured the prince's cold heart? Her thoughts raced until she hit a horrifying conclusion. Could it be Countess Gisela, his beautiful assassin? It might be the same woman who was poisoning him. She questioned his sanity in that moment. If Sillian really wanted to give gifts to that villainess, then he was definitely in danger. Gisela was a legendary beauty, the kind that can make anyone fall in love at first sight. They were only 3 years apart, but they were supposed to be mortal enemies. She took his mother's place. There was no way they were on good terms. Had he fallen for her just because of her cooking? Totally horrified, she panicked. The prince had absolutely no idea he was being fed slow-acting poison. While she spiraled, Sillian asked if this was enough. The kitten meowed frantically, trying to warn him. But he couldn't understand her. Sillian asked if she didn't want them, insisting they needed these specific clothes. She shook her head violently, desperate to stop him. He just laughed and looked at her playfully. She shook her head violently. He just laughed, teasing her. What? Are you actually jealous? Thinking these were for someone else? She meowed back while he hid a secret, knowing smile. She had no clue that every night she turned into a girl. He decided to keep it secret. He decided to keep that secret for now. Leaving the shop, they returned to the carriage. Sillian signaled their departure. Inside his pocket, she wondered what that shopping trip was all about. He hummed a happy tune, hiding a secret smile. He was definitely concealing something from her. Suspicious, she vowed not to let her guard down. Who knew what he was really thinking? Then he offered her snacks. Her heart melted as he placed a treat on a tiny napkin. Sillian smirked as the fluff ball feasted. Feeling his gaze, she chirped, "Want a nibble, Princey?" Or maybe she felt like a glutton. Patting her, the royal claimed sweets weren't his vibe. "Finish it," he commanded. While soaking in the love, our heroine had a sudden epiphany. Focus. At this rate, she'd become a real feline in both spirit and brain. Peering out, she realized they weren't palace-bound. Where was this royal carriage actually headed? Suddenly grave, Sillian whispered for her attention. Upon arrival, things were going to get intense. They were investigating a secret. "Don't worry, little one, I won't let you get hurt." Total puff tail. That's the classic line of a man about to do something super shady. But then the prince's gentle strokes turned her into literal mush again. She wondered ... Was his lap becoming too addictive? Blame the treats or his intoxicatingly soft head pats. Regardless, exhaustion won. Amidst her slumber, a familiar glow erupted, and that mysterious lady returned. She occupied his lap once more, draped in a sheet the prince cleverly prepped beforehand. Sillian exhaled, relieved his just-in-case blanket worked. Shutting the curtains, he recalled the past. Since the previous reign, magic was branded a dark taboo and strictly forbidden. With mages being hunted, hiding this supernatural kitty girl was his only choice. Feline, woman, or phantom? Sillian was still trying to label his chaotic little mystery. Tucking her in, he watched her sleep. Face-to-face time with real sorcerers was now mandatory. A fortress loomed ahead. Stirring from her nap, the kitten blinked at the new surroundings. "The Master of Winston is here," a voice boomed. Realizing her current position, being stuffed in a pocket again meant zero visibility. Sillian hiding her meant trouble was afoot. They'd arrived. "Welcome to the Winston region, the domain of the formidable Duke Delson." A cloaked figure shadowed the prince through a garden bursting with vibrant blossoms. Amidst waving banners and grandeur, a silver-haired elder greeted them inside the keep. "I am Valen Delson." The patriarch bowed low, honoring Sillian's royal status. The Huppard Empire's pride. Valen admitted he never dreamed of such a prestigious meeting. Sillian gave a stoic nod as the men fell to their knees before their future liege. They gestured to a throne. A youth named Herod unmasked himself with a bold question. "Pardon the intrusion, but why has the son of the palace visited us?" "Are you sure you want to know?" Sillian countered. Herod nodded without a shred of hesitation. He argued that mages were outcasts here, branded as dark villains by the crown. Why would the Empire's star visit his supposed enemies? The logic simply wasn't adding up. Harry's voice dripped with bitterness as he questioned the prince's suspicious presence. Sillian smirked at the saltiness, but Valen intervened before sparks could fly. "Silence, boy!" Valen barked, offering a frantic apology for his son's disrespectful tongue. The elder begged for mercy regarding his bratty son. Sillian waved it off indifferently. Grudges were expected. "I'm here for one thing, absolute confirmation about a certain mystery." Reaching into his coat, Sillian plopped the kitten onto the table. Dead silence followed. Jaws dropped in unison. "Is that a common house cat?" They stammered in disbelief. Why this beast? Sillian didn't care about taboo magic. He needed results. "I'll use any weapon available." He turned to the mages with steel in his gaze. Break the curse on this kitten. Our protagonist froze. So that was his master plan. Haraduas and ... that name rang a bell. The genius mage from the original novel. He was the future traitor who'd lead a bloody revolt against Emperor Sillian. Meeting him this early? The original plot was officially going off the rails. The room remained tense as all eyes stayed glued to the tiny white fluff ball. Great, my spoiler powers just hit a total dead end. Harold snaps, screaming about bringing a cursed fuzzball into the palace. He draws his sword, shouting about keeping the palace blood-free. He lunges for the kill, sending the poor kitten into a panic. Cling! Sillian is there, kitten tucked safely in his protective arm. Who allowed you to draw? Sillian asks as Harold's sword shatters. Worry about the cat, not your brat, Sillian spits coldly. Harold threatens the prince with consequences for drawing steel first. Bad move. His own father shuts him up instantly. The old man bows, begging mercy for his, well, idiot son. Sillian lowers his blade but drops a possessive truth bomb. This cat is mine. Touch her and your history, chills. Valen shook. Yours? He reminds him cats literally destroy empires. The crown prince protecting the herald of doom? Total scandal. Meanwhile, our little furball sits there like, I'm just a baby. Sillian skips the talk and starts drawing glowing magical runes. The heat rises. Want to see how fast my fire spreads? Flames roar. The sorcerers are sweating as the prince flexes aura. Pure energy swirls. Even the kitten is starstruck by his power. Aura is that elite energy only master swordsmen can truly master. It's rarer than common sense, basically magic's more dangerous cousin. It's so deadly that it's rarely seen outside a battlefield. Using it around sorcerers, the crown's old enemies? That's risky. He's basically painting a target on his back by revealing this. But Sillian is just showing off. Sir, why go so hard? Now, the prince asks, investigating the curse or what? Valen folds. Yes, my lord. Just please turn down the heat. The heroine is spinning. The plot has officially gone off script. How do I survive without my cheat code spoiler knowledge? Valen starts a scan, then freezes like he's seen a ghost. He's stunned. Sillian's bored. Valen gasps the power is too much. It's a divine blessing. God's got this kitten on speed dial. Now the protagonist is actually interested. Say what now? Prophecy said evil, but this kitty is dripping with holy protection. Apparently, her whole family line were the chosen ones of cats. Sillian smirks. So his lucky charm didn't just fall randomly? Valen senses ancient force. He thinks her parents might be alive. Explains why she's not extinct. Mama and Papa Cat must be legends. The kitten leans in. Family reunion? Count me in. She's actually getting hyped about her mysterious feline roots. Valen tells Harold to scan memories. Harold rolls his eyes. I didn't study high magic to talk to a furball. Dad gives him a be humble slap. Harold groans and submits. He apologizes, asking if he can ... gasp ... touch the royal paw. Sillian's eyes narrow. Fine, but just the paw. Don't push it. Harold reached out and boomed blinding light. He squeezed his eyes shut, concentrating hard. His brow furrowed as he blurted out, What on earth? He was staring at the royal gardens. Amidst the grand castle scenery, there stood Sillian, the very start of the kitty's core memories. Harold blinked, baffled by the strange sight. No world building, just the fortress and the prince. Just me? Sillian asked. Harold nodded, confirming that the prince was the only human in her mind. Every moment revolves around you, he noted. The sorcerer explained the kitten had lost her entire past. The prince was low-key obsessed. Why was his face the only thing she chose to remember? He asked about the divine blessing, but the mages admitted magic had hit a total dead end. That holy cat power was like a brick wall, blocking every single attempt at magical probing. They would need to get creative for further research. Sillian agreed, ready to pivot his investigation. He vowed to hunt down curses that ignored the usual prophecies. Valen mentioned the original text was toast. Despite the lost history, the prince insisted that teamwork would eventually crack the case. As they gathered, Herod hesitated before a realization hit him like a ton of bricks. "I see it now. Your Highness didn't come here just because of some silly old curse." Sillian sighed dramatically, admitting his true colors. As heir, he was here to pop the question professionally. He slapped an imperial contract on the table, demanding they read every single word carefully. The mages gasped at the shiny sun emblem. Why pick a bunch of rebels like them? Sillian smirked. The Delsons were the only mages who never actually sucked up to the crown. For centuries, they stayed stubborn. He needed allies who would not just fold under royal pressure. To win them over, he needed a sweet deal. Valen leaned in, wondering what the catch was. Under the protagonist's watchful gaze, the prince dropped the bomb. He is reopening the Mage Academy. That one sentence practically short-circuited the mage's brains. Talk about a total power move. The previous emperor had axed the school just to keep the pesky magic users from revolting. But Sillian did not care. Reviving it was the perfect bait to hook the count's support. Though warned of the danger, Sillian brushed it off, confident he could handle the royal drama. All he wanted was for the elder to focus on churning out some legendary new mages. Let us be real, the empire was falling apart at the seams, and everyone knew it. Shadows were crawling everywhere, and somehow that little furball was right in the middle of it. The road ahead looked rough, but Sillian's mind was set. Trust him to bring back their glory. Valen countered that for a mage, a contract meant surrendering their entire life to a master. It was a heavy-priced absolute loyalty in exchange for tapping into their true potential. Mages could only hit their peak power once they were officially bonded to someone. But losing one's sense of self was a scary thought. Sillian admitted he was not playing hero. This was not about building some grand empire. He just wanted the truth behind the lies. The current reality was making a mockery of the prophecy, and he was dying of curiosity. That mysterious vibe was enough to pique anyone's interest. The sorcerer knew this was serious business. After a quick father-son look, both mages gave a firm, dramatic nod of approval. Valen shouted his vow, dedicating his very soul to whatever the prince commanded from now on. Instantly, magical chains burst from the parchment, sealing their fate with a satisfying glow. After 500 long years, the household finally had a master to call their own. Sillian chuckled at the master title, then turned to Herod with a mischievous glint. He had a top-secret first mission. Herod was practically vibrating with excitement until the reveal. Sillian pulled out a pair of tiny pajamas. The mages just stood there, completely losing it. "What are those for?" Herod stammered. Sillian wanted them enchanted for the ultimate custom fit. Herod just puffed out a sigh, wondering why he was using high-level magic for cat loungewear. Who even used such a useless spell? But one look at Sillian's soul-piercing gaze and he crumbled. Shaking like a leaf, the wizard stepped into the magic circle and began chanting his incantations. Presto, the spell was complete. Now these threads would magically fit any body type perfectly. The prince gave a cold nod of approval before declaring it was finally time to move out. Back at the palace, Sillian cornered the cat with a pair of tiny pajamas in his hands. The kitten was floored. Is he for real? Who puts pajamas on a feline? She thought skeptically. This was peak absurdity. With a firm head shake, she staged her one-cat protest against the prince. Freedom meant sleeping fur to sheet. These silk traps looked like pure, itchy torture to her. She couldn't believe the prince expected her to surrender. Being trapped in a furry body was depressing. She wasn't about to give up her only cat perk, the right to sleep totally naked without judgment. Inside, she was a fierce activist fighting for the right to nap in the nude forever. Sillian only heard a grumpy meowing furball. "Do you really hate them that much?" he asked. She gave a sassy heck no meow. He sighed, asking if she'd ever reconsider wearing them. Still a hard pass. He smirked, cryptically warning her that she'd regret her stubbornness very soon. That night, Sillian draped a blanket over a sleeping girl, whispering, "I told you to put something on." Spring bloomed at the castle, marking Sillian's official 19th year on this earth. By now, the original novel said he'd be half dead from the Countess's dark magic brew. He was supposed to be a walking shadow, drowning in agony and an ominous dark aura. Yet he looked radiant. Our heroine was baffled by his suspiciously glowing health and vitality. While the prince sipped tea like a model, she spiraled into a pit of deep confusion. Did this guy have some hidden super regeneration ability the author forgot to mention in the plot? Sillian set down some milk, and she happily meowed her thank you to the handsome prince. Suddenly, a sharp tapping against the glass sent her feline ears twitching in curiosity. A majestic white eagle was perched there with a message. Sillian acted like it was totally normal. Was the prince actually buddies with an eagle? Our kitty protagonist was feeling deeply suspicious. Is this just Fantasy World 101? The bird soared in the second the window opened. Sillian snatched the letter from the bird's leg and dove straight into the secret contents. With a heavy sigh, he lamented his luck, though he was relieved to get any news. A rejection letter was better than being ghosted by his own mother, he figured. Ignoring her, he played bird whisperer, offering the feathered messenger some water to drink. Are all eagles this sassy? She wondered, freezing as the bird's sharp gaze pierced her soul. The eagle, named Mikio, soon took flight. Sillian explained it was a gift from his mother. His mother had personally tamed the beast and expected a swift reply by sunset today. Great, so this sky assassin was the only reliable way to send mail in this crazy kingdom. Patting her tiny head, the prince announced his meeting with the emperor. Stay put, kitty. She gave a pause up, watching him march toward the lion's den of the emperor's chambers. Sillian replayed the letter's words. A mother's cold apology for canceling their long-awaited reunion. She claimed a trip to Tennessee for rehabilitation was far more important than seeing her son. Don't worry about me, son of Rupert. Just focus on being a perfect little crown prince. The letter ended with a formal prayer and a signature that felt like ice. Elise. Bang! A weapon's blast echoed as a majestic lion slumped into its own blood nearby. The guards marveled. The beast took a whip without flinching but folded under a bullet. This gift from Labar was being inspected by the tyrant himself, Emperor Adolf Reinhardt. Toys are so much more fun when they struggle, he mused with a chilling, villainous smirk. Sitting beside his son, the emperor sipped tea while Sillian's appetite vanished instantly. Send that beast to rest in the fields. The guards groaned as they lugged the heavy crate away. Then entered the big-shot chief of staff Lennon McMillan, reporting for duty. Sorry to crash the tea party, but he had a juicy secret for the emperor's ears only. One private audience later, he was whispering secrets like a gossiping schoolgirl. The emperor snapped. Those pesky sorcerers were popping up like weeds again. He wanted answers. Meanwhile, Sillian just sipped his tea, cool as a cucumber. Busted. The palace finally noticed the mages. And then there was that rat, Lennon. A total two-timer. He was secretly playing for Team Countess Gazila on the side. Did I stir the pot too much? Sillian wondered, flashing a devilish little grin. I called them, he chirped. Lennon froze, looking like he had seen a ghost. What were you thinking? He shrieked, totally losing his cool over the mages. Sillian shrugged. Keep your friends close, and mages closer. Lennon was totally baffled. Exactly that, Sillian teased. After all, the commoners loved their magic medicine. Sec? Sad? Use magic. Sillian wanted to hijack that trust for himself. Using the people's favorites would make the crown look like total heroes. All for you, Dad! He lied with the most convincing face ever. The emperor roared with laughter. Even Adolf thought Sillian was a perfect little angel. Chuckling, he put Lennon on the spot. Don't you agree, Chief? Lennon shook like a leaf, stammering about their beautiful father-son bond. Such deep love. But then, click-clack, someone was crashing the party. Enter Countess Gisela, complaining about the crowd like a true drama queen. She kicked the chief out, wanting a quiet tea without the riffraff around. The man scurried off. Sillian just rolled his eyes at the pathetic loser. "Aren't you busy with the party?" the emperor asked, surprised to see her. She was just there for the rare black lion gossip at the greenhouse. "Where's my kitty?" she asked. Sillian told her to go find it in the dirt. He asked about the ball, and she claimed she was working her fingers to the bone. She sighed. If only the empress were here to do the heavy lifting. Sillian bristled, but the emperor just laughed off the shady comment. "Who needs a sick empress?" He joked. "Catherine has got this covered." "So heartless." She giggled, then turned her sharp gaze towards Sillian. Sillian played nice, praising her skills while screaming internally. "Everyone here is so annoying. Should I just ... kill them all?" "Nah, too early. Instant death is way too merciful for this crowd. He would rather watch them suffer." Meanwhile, back at the prince's pad, the door creaked open. Was our handsome prince back already? Coughing? She rushed over to find Sillian looking totally trashed. Did the tea party turn toxic? Did that countess spike his snacks again? Magic potions mean major pain. Was his lunch laced with dark magic? Wait, in the story, this is when his magic addiction kicks in. Age 19... and that is exactly how old he is right now. He started stripping. This was the peak of his agony in the novel. The pain that creates a tyrant. He stumbled through the room like a ghost. He collapsed, ignoring her. Her heart ached for him. It was just too cruel. So young, yet suffering all alone. Who would even care for him? It wasn't his stealth, just 0 people cared. This palace was a lonely fortress. Sillian played her shield, yet he's merely human. Even a hero hits his limit. Determined to assist, she grabbed her dress and scaled a pillow mountain. She dumped fabric on his sweaty brow. Next, a milk plate fever remedy. After making a stylish mess, she collapsed. Mission accomplished barely. The fever broke. Now her only dream was that luxurious king-sized bed. Horror struck. She'd accidentally demolished her pillow staircase to heaven. Stranded and desperate, she squeezed into her magical enchanted threads. Crafted by mages, this outfit made her a sleepy, fashionable feline. A total laughingstock. Yet, her mind kept drifting back to Sillian. Was this her life-sparing reward? Suddenly, a blinding flash engulfed the room. Sunrise arrived. Sillian awoke, discovering a tiny cloth perched on his forehead. Drenched in sweat, he stared. Could his wild theory actually be true? Did the kitty nurse him? He turned and saw a silver-haired beauty. Slumbering in pajamas on the floor, she looked like his exhausted little angel. Kneeling beside her, he whispered she was his sole ally in this nightmare. She mumbled in her sleep as Sillian tenderly gathered her into his arms. He teased that a floor cold would force him to nurse her next. Tucking her in, he lay beside her, stroking her hair with reward-filled eyes. He dubbed her Renette Little Queen since she ruled him with such sass. With her new name set, he playfully pinched her nose to wake her up. Dazed, she wondered how she reached the bed. Sleep well? He smirked. He called her Renette. Confused but cute, she responded with a tiny meow. That was her official name now. Finally, a real identity in this world. Sillian's gift was her new life. She stood and meowed a worried question. "Are you okay?" she fretted. He understood perfectly, smiling that he was recovered. His recovery was her doing. She face-pawed, feeling a flush of feline pride. To prove his thanks, he had a secret to spill. She was baffled. The bombshell dropped. She transformed into a human during her nap. She was stunned before he added, "Also, you were birthday suit naked?" Naked? The word echoed as she spiraled into a trembling, fluffy panic attack. The mood shattered. A glass crashed as she let out a legendary screech. Sillian called her name, but she gave him the cold shoulder and tail. "Ignoring me forever now?" he asked. feeling the sting of her fury. Abso-freaking-lutely, he saw her total nudity. The embarrassment was soul-crushing. It was too humiliating. He sighed, reaching out to bridge the awkward gap. He tried to explain, but zap. He got a sharp claw to the hand. Oops, pure reflex. As she felt guilty, he grabbed his coat to leave. Rest up, he said, departing for work. Now, her kitty anxiety was spiking hard. Was he mad? Sillian looked at his hand. Her strike barely tickled him. Just a love tap on his skin. He slid on his ring. Fully dressed, the prince ordered her to stay safe and stay silent. Her tail flicked impatiently. When would her favorite human return to her? She needed to apologize. But suddenly, suspicious whispers hissed from the hallway. Search everything, a voice growled. Find any evidence of trouble in here. She froze instantly. The door creaked. Someone was actually invading the prince's sanctuary. Maids barged in without knocking. Their leader hissed that time was running out. Knowing his icy personality, he'd be back soon. It was Countess Catherine. Harming Gazella, our hero realized. The Emperor's favorite snake was finally attacking. Even as a favorite, she had no right to go rifling through his room. Hiding as a cat, she overheard Catherine's gossip about a secret boutique visit. He's hiding a woman, they claimed. Our protagonist wondered how they even knew. Then she remembered the pajamas. The Countess's followers looked absolutely terrified. One maid stammered, questioning why the prince's love life was even their business. Fearing a lethal backlash, she hesitated. Catherine immediately snapped at the girl. Lady Anna Rose, did I give you permission to think? The girl stood paralyzed. Catherine lifted the girl's chin with a fan, demanding total, mindless obedience. Don't waste my time with your cowardice. The maid crumbled and apologized again. Resuming her search, Catherine scoffed. Did they really believe the prince had standards? A noblewoman, unlikely. Catherine was certain his little secret was some low-born nobody. An aristocrat would be at court, yet he met this mystery girl in secret. Clearly, her background was so scandalous they couldn't be seen together in public. Find anything suspicious. Catherine barked while our hero prayed for a miracle. If they found her, she was toast. The room was turned upside down. They found nothing. Catherine exploded, calling them useless and screaming profanities. She ranted about their incompetence, wishing they were blind for missing the evidence. Suddenly, a young maid entered. Oh, I thought everyone was at the embassy. Catherine's eyes narrowed. And who are you? A little spy sent by the prince? She accused the girl of secret surveillance. The poor maid started stammering in fear. I'm just the cleaner, she squeaked. But Catherine was ready to draw blood. Gazella lectured her, asking who gave a lowly maid permission to enter his room. Crying, the girl claimed the prince allowed cleaning whenever the door was open. Liars lose their tongues, Catherine whispered, threatening to rip it out of her. As the girl quivered, Anna Rose whispered that the prince's return was imminent. We're leaving, Catherine declared, but she paused for one last menacing look. She promised to remember the girl's face. Then the door slammed with a bang. But the white-haired maid remained. She began creeping toward the bed, step by step. Panic set in. Where did this woman even come from? She was getting closer. She peered under the bed with knowing eyes. Renette trembled. Was her cover blown? A hand reached into the shadows. Renette froze, trying to be a silent statue. Terrified of discovery, she wondered if the woman sensed a cat was hiding there. It made no sense. They hadn't made eye contact once during the whole ordeal. This wasn't a cleaner, it was a hunter. Her hand was inches from touching her. The maid's heavy breathing filled the air. Suddenly, the prince walked right in. Explain yourselves, he commanded. Both women jumped, shocked by his sudden, icy arrival. Sillian looked annoyed. I'm positive I locked this door when I left the room. The maid bowed low. The door was wide open, sire. Leave now! She vanished instantly. Once alone, Cillian's voice softened as he called for Renette. A pitiful furball crawled out, meowing sadly. Sillian scooped her up instantly. "Are you hurt?" He growled, swearing he'd double-checked that lock. He knew Gisela had pride. The cat froze. Is he a mind reader? The prince-side Gisela looked like a ghost. Renette spotted his hand. Where her scratch remained, she licked it tenderly. Despite her claws, Sillian remained her knight. Suddenly, his ring glowed a magical telecall. He searched her eyes, curious about your origins. She was stunned. He waited with a smirk. Outside, the maid shivered. Something was wrong. Had this garden always existed? The silence was chillingly weird. Like a dreamscape. Suddenly, Valandudin barked. "How'd you get in?" She spun around. He smirked. This magic zone was for VIPs only. "Snooping, are we?" he teased. She scrambled to hide her tracks. "I'm just lost," she squeaked. The Duke didn't buy the act. "After a cat?" he asked. She froze solid. Then the excuses flew. "Cat? No clue." She stammered, her guilty face giving her away.